Good evening, everyone. I'm Tish Calamer, the Community Engagement Manager here at the Gale Borden Public Library, and I'd like to welcome you all to this festive evening. I really appreciate all of you giving up your time. It's my honor and privilege to introduce you to a good friend of mine who happens to be the Elgin Poet Laureate. You might ask yourself, well, what does it take to be Elgin Poet Laureate? I could be Elgin Poet Laureate, I hear you all saying. Well, what you have to do is you have to live in Elgin, you must be over 18, reside within the city limits of Elgin, and write poetry that celebrates the vibrant past and present of our beloved home. Gareth meets and exceeds those requirements. She is a few days over 18. She has lived in Elgin for more than 40 years.
Oh, 53.
55, okay. Giving her time and talent as a teacher, mentor, poet, and playwright. As a teacher, Gareth has taught in local public schools and private schools as well from 1969 to 2013. As a playwright, she has written numerous plays and is the artistic director of FemProv and president of the Independent Players. She has mentored many area poets, most notably as the leader and facilitator of the poetry group that meets here at the library. She is a beloved poet and poetic performer, inspiring young and old to be creative in writing and expression. Gareth's own poetry delves into family relationships, Elgin landmarks, humorous situations, notable Elgin personages, contemporary issues, love, death, and even lasagna. Please welcome our Elgin Poet Laureate for 2022-2023, Gareth Mann.
Thank you, Tish. What is poetry anyway? When I was in high school, my teacher wrote on the board, poetry is concise language which affords or describes an experience. I kept that with me all the time, and when I became a high school English teacher, I used it with my students. When my poets, and I call them my poets, all the poets that come to my poetry group on the first Monday of the month, sometimes they come and they're really tentative, and I always repeat a tiny little poem I wrote a long time ago, and it's really simple. It goes, a poem cannot be good or bad, the way milk can be sweet or sour, or a berry ripe or green. A poem can only speak for itself, and if it reaches one person only, that is enough. So my personal poetry runs a gamut of all sorts of things. It's a real pleasure to be able to share some of the things that I write when I'm not writing 5-minute poems to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Elgin Master Chorale, which was a delight to be able to do. It's a challenge, for a poet. So I'm hoping that all of the poets who are here, or the poets that in the community, will get the courage to know that even if in your own little room you write private little poems, you can also become the Elgin Poet Laureate. Okay, I shall begin. This one is called The Land Where Poems Live. Take me to the land where poems live, where words become feelings and create images that are new. Take me to the land where poems live, where they rise with each morning sun and hold me close in the dark of night when the world is asleep. Take me to the land where poems live in the recesses of my mind, where clarity comes. Take me to the land where poems live, where my words make a difference, where my soul meets the souls of others, in this land where poems live. My words are water. My words are water, sometimes dripping slowly from the leaky faucet of my mind, droplets splashing gently in a pristine porcelain sink, sometimes bursting from a fire hydrant with intensity, or a raging torrential storm without control, powerful images crashing around me, or cascading from a waterfall in a lovely, consistent flow. In winter, hitting the ground, freezing rain becoming a sheet of ice, I slip and fall, unable to stand, needing rescue as I struggle to rise from a concrete walkway. But then, relief. Hot shower, easing my aching muscles, cleansing mind and body, caressing me as I lather with sweet-smelling soap, closing my eyes as beads of water stream down my face, shampoo's residue dissolving on the tiled shower floor. I am squeaky clean, ready to face my demons. Finally, my favorite places, my body immersed in cool lakes, ocean waves, swimming pools, or hotel hot tubs. Words come and go as I wallow in a steam bath of sorrow and strength, my nakedness exposed, moisture releasing toxins, while poems soak through my skin before landing on paper. And here's one I wrote, I guess it was 2018. I'm aiming to try to write more and more poems that are bilingual. So this is a bilingual poem. Beautiful dark-eyed brown babies everywhere I go. In shopping carts, at the grocery store, at the library, in our parks and playgrounds. I hear them say, Papi and Mommy. I stroll in Loris Park. A mother holds a toddler in her arms. Sitting on a bench by the lagoon, ducks and geese glide by. I smile and say, Buenos dias, ¿cuántos años tiene? I ask his mother. Surprised, she looks at me, a gringa, admiring her child. 22 meses, she answers. Es adorable, I respond. I smile. She smiles too. Long-lashed baby lifts his head from his mommy's shoulder, shyly returning my smile. Hasta la vista, I say, waving goodbye, continuing my stroll, smiling inside, feeling lucky and grateful, living in Elgin. Garden at sunset. Sweltering summer heat retreats as the sun slowly sets. I venture out to catch fading light, quenching the thirst of nature's bounty. Water squirts swiftly through the garden hose. I spray my bare feet, savoring pungent odors. Mint and lemon thyme, sage, rosemary, and dill, oregano overflowing, caressing red-rimmed lettuce, parsley proliferating, nudging abundant basil. Cherry tomatoes glisten on the vines. Temptation knocks, luscious and ripe, closing my eyes as juice oozes in my mouth. No need to save for salad. Guilt-free, I take another, gazing gratefully as orange and blue merge with pink on the horizon. In the past 2 years, my husband passed away, and while he was dying, I made a lot of pie, because he liked pie. This poem is called At Peace. It's not a question of whether or not you will die. It's just not knowing when. I am at peace, not knowing, savoring each remaining day, drinking wine, indulging in our favorite foods, celebrating life. And I make pie because you love pie. Dutch apple pie, smell of sweet cinnamon and lemon zested filling wafting through the air, bubbling through its thick crumb topping, teasing us with anticipation of that first taste. Cherry pie with a lattice crust, tart cherries mingling with store-bought pie filling and a touch of almond extract. Its top graced with several scoops of Edie's vanilla. French silk pie, intensity of chocolate coating our tongues, freshly whipped cream crowning this decadent delight. Pumpkin and pecan pies, so we can be thankful now for who knows if we will share our next Thanksgiving. For now, I make pie and feed you red meat and don't whet your salt intake and lovingly buy you Coca-Cola and turn the other way when you choose coffee with caffeine and bedtime bowls of ice cream. I'm 81, you quip. At my age, you've got to die of something. As for me, I will stay at peace, not knowing. Another poem written, but after my husband passed away. It's called We Traveled Together. We traveled together on the same path, or paths of our own. Sometimes I rode in your carriage and sometimes you rode in mine. Sometimes we walked side by side and sometimes we walked alone. Venturing solo strengthened our union. We always knew no matter where we went, home was in each other's arms. We lived without jealousy, admiring one another's talents, delighted to witness the people we continued to become because of one another. You were my safe place where I could regroup and refresh before facing the world again. Living with unconditional love, being accepted as I am through all the changes of life, allowed me the freedom to create, to give back to the universe with joy. Our long journey did not end when you died. Even if I travel with new companions, you will always be close by. This one was actually written 2 days after my husband passed away. I decided that I would, wear black for a month. I thought that that would be a good idea. And I'm gonna get a sip of water. And just so you know, we're coming up on the second anniversary of his death, which will be September 20th. Wearing widow's weeds, I wander wearily in our once shared space. wistfully wondering how you are. Spiritual soul that I am, I know there is an afterlife, and you are where the righteous reside, be it called heaven or something else. I see you laughing with your friends, your wit warmly welcomed, your deep chuckle resonating, sprinkling the atmosphere with the same sweet low sounds I will hear in my mind forever. Wearing widow's weeds guides children and grandchildren to honor your memory. Dressed in black, they see in me a living reminder of their loss and of my respect for Dad, for Grandpa. Wearing widow's weeds is a signal to all, a visible request to let me be, to let me grieve, until the peace that passes all understanding envelops me, filling my empty space. Well, we've had quite a bout with COVID, and some of the poems that I've written have to do with that. This one is called Playing and Praying. To while away the time, I play with colored wax on strands of silver hair, transforming from pink to purple to blue, each day a different hue. I am a teenager once again, silly grandma, happy with pale pink framing my aging face. I play too, with virtual backgrounds on Zoom, attending synagogue services from different places, photos from my past embracing my screen. My rabbi simply smiles. Our 35-year-old son, sheltered with us, cajoles his aging parents, teaching us new ways to have fun. We play board games, not the standard ones like Clue or Monopoly, but current, complicated ones, challenging my 73-year-old mind. We watch comedy specials on HBO, Netflix, and Amazon Prime, laughing in spite of uncertainty, quashing our fears, grateful for big screen TV, cherishing the safety of our home. So I play and I pray, waiting for the storm outside to subside so I can reach out, loving arms, and hold my children and grandchildren so close I can hear their hearts beating. When I can once again hug heartily and laugh with friends in close proximity, sharing meals and fellowship. When we can celebrate the missed birthdays, anniversaries, graduation parties, and reunions. When fear and anxiety dissipate for all who suffer, and we can finally mourn the dead, comforted by those we love. For now, I play as much as possible, and I pray, and I pray. This one is called Death During a Pandemic, and it was inspired by a dear, dear friend of mine who passed away not of COVID, but during the pandemic. Feeling herself slip away, her tired body no longer able to fight, closing her eyes with visions of sweet kisses and embraces, small hands patting her arm, playing with her white hair, memories floating through her mind, a beatific Mona Lisa smile gracing her pale face. I want to see Grandma, the little one cries, not understanding enforced separation from his source of unconditional love. A simple thing we take for granted, being there, quietly waiting as salty tears brush our cheeks. Last moments stolen. Is this how it must end? Coping and cooking. Split pea soup simmering on the stove. Incessant cooking, my escape. Doing something sacred for those I love. Kind companions cloistered in my cozy home. For others I love. Mourning in sequestered solitude. Unable to fill the empty space with hugs and idle chatter gathered for that communal meal once the beloved body is laid to rest. Eyes filled with tears that come and go, but mostly come. I cannot raise the dead, yet I can humbly offer comfort, soothing soups, sinful sweet treats, my listening ear, responsive texts, tears and memories mingle with theirs in spirit, if not in body. I do not fear this slight breach of social distancing, trusting the safety of carefully delivered sustenance, a small gift to keep them afloat as they drown, guiding them while swimming safely to shore, strong arms battling the waves, until, at last, permission granted, warm embraces and shared sorrow make mourning more manageable. Till then, I cook, savoring healing smells, knowing I am doing something helping me feel essential. So, I have lots of poems, and that's just a sampling of some of them. I wanted to talk a little bit with you about the Poet Laureate project and what will be happening this year. First of all, for anyone who is interested in applying to be Poet Laureate, the process will start in the summer of 2023, and the applications will be due probably in September. Decisions will be made by October, and then in January, the new Poet Laureate will take her or his place. I see my job as to mentor and talk to people who are interested and let them know what the responsibilities might be, and to allay people's fears. If I get a whole bunch of people applying, that would make me incredibly happy. But that's what's gonna happen. Excuse me, Tisha already told you some of the basics about what you need. You have to live in Elgin, you have to be 18, and you have to have some discipline. You have to have some discipline, and that's why the application is very difficult. Because if you can't fill out the difficult application, you're not gonna be able to do the job. Okay, but if you need help with it, I would be more than happy to talk to people about that. This coming year, as part of the Elgin Poet Laureate project, we will be having several more activities that people in the community can participate in. Last year, we did Loving Elgin on Zoom. This year, hopefully, we'll be able to do Loving Elgin in a big way down in the community rooms with heart-shaped cookies that say Elgin on them, and lots of poems by people about what they love about our town. Right now, if you go on ElginPoetLaureateProject.org, you can see many of the poems that were written last year about loving Elgin. And the more we get, the better. We can celebrate our town with our words. And remember, no poem is bad. If you have kids, encourage them to write poems. Take them someplace in Elgin that's special, you know, even take them to the library. I would love to have a whole bunch of poems about how much we love the library, right? I love the library. I would love to see poems about, I love the zoo, I love Lord's Park, I love the Elgin Public Museum. I love to go to Al's and have them walked, whatever it is. The more we have, the better. I think that I've been here since 1968 as a young bride, and I come from Manhattan. So for me to love a town like Elgin is pretty cool. A lot of my high school friends will say, "What are you doing out there?" And I'll say, I really, really do love it. I can go to the grocery store and I'll meet somebody that I know. It's big enough to have a marvelous library, a symphony, a bunch of theater groups, but it's small enough that you really get to know a lot of people. And you never go anywhere without meeting somebody that you know. And it's very special. I've asked some people what they love about Elgin, and many people will say that they love the people. They love the people. It's a friendly town. It's a friendly town. I loved teaching in the schools. I love my students. So after loving Elgin, we're going to be in March doing something for Women's History Month. I'm going to make a list of women who are significant in the history of Elgin. I'm going to put that up on the website, and I'm going to challenge people to write a poem about one of those women. I think that would be a really neat project for this year. And then in April, of course, that's National Poetry Month, and the group from Monday night will be doing their annual Poetry Alive presentation, and hopefully there'll be some more things. The other thing that's going to be going on this year, beginning in November, once a month there will be a Meet the Poet event, and each month a different poet from Elgin will have a chance to share poetry with you and talk about the writing process, because we're all very different in the way we write. And there's no one right way to do it. So thank you very, very much. If you have questions, I'm around. I'd be happy to talk to any of you.
Who are the judges? How do they judge? Just by your writing or what?
Oh, you mean the process? Okay. Yeah, you submit your poetry, and then you have an interview and you have to present your poetry. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Jean, because one of the things I'm going to do next summer is I'm going to do a workshop on how to present your poetry. Because we have some gifted poets who really have trouble presenting their poetry. And they just need a little bit of instruction. I mean, I'm a theater major, you know? My mother was a professional actress. For me, it comes naturally. But for a lot of people, it doesn't. You know, they need some help, some training. So I'm there. I'm there to help them, so. But yes, they do have to present.
The judges are who then? The judges are poets of Elgin?
No, the judges are a variety of people. As a matter of fact, we're always looking for people who are willing to serve on the committee. I will take my place on the committee when I'm done with this, and I will stay as long as I have a brain and can continue to help. But I do think that if you know people, they can be former English teachers, they can be people who just love poetry, or people who just want to help the community. The more the merrier, really. I mean, an ideal committee would be multicultural, multi-generational. That would be the best, you know, so. Anybody else have any questions? No, well, you can ask me personally when you walk around. Have a cupcake. you know. Thank you so much for coming and listening. I appreciate it.